morning and welcome to Unity of Huntsville. It is a beautiful day in my consciousness, and I hope it is in yours on this Sunday morning. I'd like to bring your attention to the Christ candle. We light the Christ candle here at Unity of Huntsville as a symbol of the Christ light that is in me, that is in you, and that is in every single person we meet, without exception. And it is ours to lift up the world by seeing that Christ light in every person that we meet. You are a radiating center of the Christ light, attracting your greatest good and sharing that good with everyone. If you're joining us this morning in the sanctuary, you'll notice that there is a circle in the back. We set this up so that when we conclude our normal service, we can go back there and have an opportunity to share around the topic of the talk for the day. I'll lead the way. When we start singing Weave, we can all go back there together. Thank you very much. I would be honored if you would join me in singing our opening song, Unity on the Mountaintop by Barry Orth. So please stand, let's sing together. On the mountaintop, unity. Yeah, come on up to the mountaintop. Come on up, come on up. Know His presence and feel His love and unity on the mountain. Unity, that's for me on the mountaintop. Yeah, yeah. Just one presence is love expressed in unity on the mountain. Come on up, we won't let you down on the mountaintop. Unity. Unity on the mountaintop. Unity. Yeah, come on up to the mountaintop. Come on up, come on up. Know His presence and feel His love and unity on the mountain. Unity, that's for me on the mountaintop. Yeah, yeah. Just one presence is love expressed in unity on the mountain. Come on up, we won't let you down on the mountaintop. Unity. Come on up, we won't let you down on the mountaintop. Unity. Yeah. All right. As you find a comfortable position, let's join in affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. And let us also affirm together our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Leave us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And now I invite you to sing the congregational song, I see abundance everywhere. You can find it in the Red Book at number 141, or the words will be on the screen behind me, thanks to Valerie. And I also want to recognize Debbie Priest on the keyboards this morning. Are we ready?
Abundance everywhere, God's rich supply beyond compare, 'tis ours to use and to enjoy, His gift to us without alloy. Prosperity, prosperity, I know my own shall come to me. God sends His children joy and peace, good health and wisdom and increase, and we are grateful, voices raised to Thee, O God, in hymns of praise. I pray that I may ever be in sweet communion, Lord, with Thee, upheld, protected by Thy hand, secure in Thy dear care I stand. Prosperity, prosperity, I know my own shall come to me. God sends His children joy and peace, good health and wisdom and increase, and we are grateful, voices raised to Thee, O God, in hymns of praise. There is no lack, all bountiful, His love provides, how beautiful to know God guides us on our way, sustains and blesses us each day. Prosperity, prosperity, I know my own shall come to me. God sends His children joy and peace, good health and wisdom and increase, and we are grateful, voices raised to Thee, O God, in hymns of praise.
Thank you. You all sound so good out there. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's go in prayer together. I invite you to find a comfortable place, comfortable posture in your seat, wherever your feet are right now. Perhaps checking in with your breath. By following your breath, bringing your awareness to the present moment in this present space. Breathing and going deeper, deeper within. With each breath, allowing your body to relax a little more as we move deeper into our inner space, aware of our thoughts and feelings without following them or giving them our attention. We allow our attention and focus to be right here, right now, open, a vessel to be filled by Spirit. We are beings of Spirit, having a human experience in these bodies. We are created in the image of the divine, the one presence, the one power in this universe, God. Each one of us in that perfect image in the absolute, where we know our wholeness and we know that we are never without what we need. We open ourselves to be filled with Spirit, to be one with our Creator. We know that we are always one, but sometimes we forget. And in this moment, let us each remember our inheritance, that we are all children of God, that there are no exceptions, that every single human being we know and we don't know is a beloved child of God. And I invite you now to go with me to the place that is within us always, available to us in the midst of whatever is going on in life, the place Charles Fillmore calls the silence. Let us go into the silence together right now. It is out of the silence that we hear the guidance, the still small voice of God. Let us open ourselves to that guidance now as we come out of the silence. God, what is mine to do? What is my next step on my spiritual path? Patiently, we wait with a still small voice, knowing that we will hear it in God's time and not necessarily in our own time. We are grateful that this silence is always available to us, that we can leave behind what is going on in the outer world and come, journey to the inner space, opening our heart to God, willing to receive from Spirit the wisdom that is our inheritance as spiritual beings. Remembering the truth. Knowing in the hearing of the still small voice what is ours to do. We are grateful. Grateful for this day. Grateful for the life, the love energy that is flowing to us and through us right now and in every now moment. Light and life. A gift from the one presence and one power in this universe. A gift given freely so that we may open ourselves and give it freely to everyone we meet. As we give it, we receive it in kind. Life, love, kindness, and compassion, peace, understanding, the gifts of the Spirit. We are grateful for one another. Grateful that we are able to gather together. Whether you join us here in this building or whether you join us online, we are together in love and life. We celebrate this togetherness with our gratitude. Grateful for every single small thing in our life as well as the large, big things. Recalling this gratitude, we say thank you. And so it is. Amen. I'd like to read for you now from the Daily Word. The Daily Word is a publication of Unity World Headquarters. The word of the day today is prosperity. And the affirmation is, I release worry and know prosperity. And the message is, perhaps the greatest gift of a prosperity consciousness is freedom from worry. It is knowing that as a divine being, I can draw from an infinite storehouse of divine ideas and prosper myself in infinite ways. This awareness helps me keep the things of this world in proper perspective. Like anyone, I will know times of plenty and times of lack. Understanding my prosperity as a spiritual truth and not the quality or number of my belongings or the amount of money I have in the bank gives me agency to direct my life. I am prosperous. As I affirm this truth again and again, I grow richer in divine ideas, the building blocks of everything on earth. And the message is from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 6 and verse 25. Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? The affirmation of the day is, I release worry and know prosperity. And the word of the day is prosperity. And that brings us to the message that God has allowed me to prepare for you. We're going to call it prosperity and digestion. And I hope that puzzles you at least a little bit. Because we don't often associate these two words together. I want to begin by reading or telling you a little story that comes from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 25. And I'll read a couple of the verses here, though I don't want to read the entire story. The story begins in Matthew 25 and verse 14. If you want to read this at home later. And I also invite you, as you do that, begin at the very beginning of chapter 25 and see how those first 13 verses relate to what we're going to talk about today. This is the story of a rich merchant who was going to take a trip. And so he called 3 of his servants and gave each one some amount of money. The unit of measure that George Lomsa uses for that amount of money is talents. You could think of it as $100 bills if you like. Whatever. But of these 3 servants, he gave these amounts of money according to their ability. The first one received 5 talents. $500 bills. Immediately, he went and invested that money, trading, so that he may earn more money from the 5 that was entrusted to him. The second servant was given $200 or 2 talents. And he did the same thing, maybe not immediately, but he began to invest this money so that he might earn for his, Lomsa uses Lord or Master in his translation, but it's this rich merchant who's taking a trip. The third servant was given $100 or 1 talent. He took his talent, dug a hole in the ground, and buried it to keep it safe. When the merchant returned, he gathered his servants together so that he could receive back the money that he had entrusted to them to keep for him. And the first servant said, "Here is the $500 that you entrusted to me, and I have invested it wisely so that now you have $1,000 or 10 talents." And I want to read what the response that the rich merchant gave to this servant. His Lord said to him, "Well done, good and reliable servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will appoint you over much. Enter into your master's joy." The second servant presented the 2 talents, the $2,000 that were entrusted to him, and 2,000 more. And the merchant gave the exact same response. The third servant, and now we're at verse number 24. The one who received 1 talent or $1,000 also came up, and he said, "My Lord, I know that you are a hard man, and you reap where you did not sow, and gather where you did not scatter. So I was afraid." That's what he said. "So I was afraid. And I went and hid your talent. I hid that $100 in the ground. Here is the very $100 bill you gave me? His Lord answered, saying, O wicked, meaning in error, and lazy, we know what that means, servant, you knew me, that I reap where I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter. In other words, I'm a pretty hard person, and I'm going to make that money, even if I got to go get it somewhere where maybe I shouldn't. You should then have put my money in the exchange. Think about a bank, where it can draw interest. And when I return, I would have demanded my own with interest. Therefore, take away the $100 bill from him and give it to the one who has $1,000. And here's the point of the whole story. But don't forget, he was afraid. Verse 29. For to him who has, it shall be given, and it shall increase to him. But he who has not, even that which he has, shall be taken away from him. On the surface, that just doesn't seem fair. What kind of a loving God would take away the very little bit that the servant, whose abilities were small to begin with, has? Think about this story not as the story of a merchant and servants, but as what's going on in your own thoughts. What's going on in your consciousness? Who could the rich merchant be, the one that's called Lord and Master? Who could these servants be? I brought this painting that my wife painted for me to help illustrate this point. So the Master would be on here, because this is a map of our consciousness. Remember, in this map down here on the bottom, we have what Jesus called our nafsha self. Often it's translated as soul. It's our sense of separate self, our sense of being alone, our sense of being separate from God. The one who knows what to do and doesn't need any help from anybody. So that third servant, the one who only received a $100 bill, is probably living somewhere in here in our consciousness. Somewhere close to that separate self. Remember the fear? This one is the one that was afraid. What happens when we live in fear? We get more of what to be afraid of. That's what he was attracting in his life. And that's what happens when we live in this area. The things of the world out there make a much more difference to us than the richness of the life that's inside of us. The second servant, the one that had $200 bills, is probably up in here. And maybe spending a lot of time in this green area where our spirit consciousness, our Christ self, our true self, is overlapping with this nafsha self. Jesus calls this true self ruah. It's translated as spirit. Directly, it means breath. It's not the breath you feel when you blow on your arm, but that act of breathing itself. It's the flow of life. We talked about it in the prayer. Feeling that flow of life coming through us. That's ruah. Holy breath. That first servant who had $500 bills and ended up with 1,001 because he got the $100 bill that this one guy down here had too, is vibrating up here. He's not fully the master yet, but he's really moving in the right direction. What did he do? The first thing he did, without any fear at all, he went and invested that money right away. No thought about it. Just went and did it in full faith. You see, when we're living from a consciousness of lack and fear, we're denying ourselves that flow of life. Our body is constricted. It's cutting off that life, the flow of life energy through us. And this isn't just a spirit thing. This can be seen. Think about when you've been tense and how you've felt. Think as you hold that tension for days, perhaps weeks, what happens to your health? Stress. You know, that's what we're kind of talking about here. If we can let the stress go, then we begin to move up. The direction up in this pain, by the way, is deeper within. Let that stress go. We can move deeper. It is in our depths that we know that we are whole, that we are a spiritual being having a human experience. And it's in this relative world where we live in a body that dis-ease happens, that lack occurs. And the more we think we have lack, that's what verse 29 is saying. The more we are living in this place of fear that there is not enough or that we are not enough, what we even have is being taken away. Is some being out there external to us doing this? No. No. It's the very consciousness of lack that is doing it itself. And here's where the digestion part comes in. Because you've been wondering about that word, I hope, through this whole talk. How is digestion going to fit in with this idea of lack? All of these servants were given $100 bill or $100 bills. But each one saw that in a different way. They took it in and began chewing on it. One of them didn't chew long, swallowed it, and just started spitting out $100 bills. Another one, he had to think, he had to chew for a little bit, but he did swallow it. The other one was so afraid that he couldn't really chew on it at all. He just buried it. The indigestion of his fear. Anything that happens out here, this whatever the situation is, has to be digested. In other words, we have a choice about how we're going to see it, how we're going to chew it, how we're going to bring it into our consciousness. That's the digestion. Spiritual digestion is what the first servant did. And you see the abundance that came as a result. Spiritual indigestion, which is associated with fear, could be anger, could be jealousy. There's all kinds of emotions that shut us down. And you can always tell because of the way it makes your body feel. But they cause spiritual indigestion. And it's that lack. What does indigestion make you feel like? You know, it's painful. Maybe even feels so bad that my chest hurts, like a heart attack even. Or I get sick to my stomach. It's like, ugh. But when we're open, life is flowing through us. We're resting in faith. Confident that what we really need is going to come to us. Because why? What the Daily Word says about it. Because when we're open, divine ideas can come through all that mess of stuff that's in our head. As long as that mess of stuff is there, we're never going to hear the guidance. The guidance comes as a still small voice out of the silence. It's out of that openness, that state of being a vessel that is ready to receive. Think about a cup that is full of water. What happens if you try to pour more water in? It just runs over the cup. You don't get anything else. And so if our mind is already full of all of this stuff, going over and over again, thinking about what happened, what someone did to us yesterday, and then someone else this morning did exactly the same thing, and now I'm just going over and over again because I was done wrong and I didn't deserve that and it wasn't right. What am I doing? I'm filling my cup up with this garbage. Because it doesn't really matter if I can let that go. You see, it happened yesterday. So how can I digest it today? Because that's what we're really talking about. You know, a cow's got two stomachs. They can eat it, and then they get to chew what's in that first stomach again. And that's what we as spiritual beings can do as well. We can chew our cud, and we can digest it again. We don't have to go all the way through that same experience again and again. We get to choose to digest it in a different way so we don't get that indigestion. It's not too late, you see. When you realize that, straight to my belly hurts, I need a Tums. Just chew your cud, realize what happened. Don't beat yourself up, but grow. This is the way my body was feeling whenever this impression started coming into my mind. Now I know what it feels like. So when my body starts feeling like that again, I get a chance to start chewing then, instead of having to wait 2 days later when I'm sick to my stomach. So I want to leave us some time to go and discuss these ideas. And then as you read that first parable that's in chapter 25 tonight or tomorrow, how is it? How are those 10 virgins in my consciousness? Where is the bridegroom? Who in me is the bridegroom? And who is the 10 virgins? And 5 of them have oil in their lamps and 5 of them don't. Don't forget that a lamp gives us a light. So I'm giving you some hints. But that's the challenge. Read that parable in relation to what you've already heard about the $100 bills. And the one who was so afraid he just buried it in the dirt. He could have gone to the bank and at least gotten 2%. Maybe it's a half now, I don't know. But you get the point. I want to sing a song for you, and it's by Karen Drucker. And you're saying, well, what has this got to do with prosperity and digestion? Because it's got to do with how we see other people in our life. You see, that's how we digest it, is in how we see it. And this song is about seeing the beauty in everyone we meet. Seeing the strength in the people we meet. Seeing them as the fully Christed person that's at the heart of everyone. Jesus gave us a demonstration because he did it. But he told us that all these things that I do, you can do too. I'm not the only one. And in fact, he said, doesn't your scripture say that we are all children of God? And it does. It's in the Psalms. I think it's Psalm 64, but I want to go look that up on Google. Google will tell you. Okay, so beauty in you.
I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the greatness in you. And so it is. I see the child in you. I see the sweetness in you. I see the softness in you. And so it is. And I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul, and I just know it, that you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. I see the goodness in you. I see the wisdom in you. I see the strength in you. And so it is. I see the joy that's in you. I see your light shining through. I see the love that's in you. And so it is. And I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul, and I just know it, that you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. I see the grace that's in you. I see the courage in you. I see the heart that's in you. And so it is. I see the beauty in you. I see the power in you. I see the greatness in you. And so it is. And I can see it. It's right there before me. I can feel it deep in my soul, and I just know it, that you are an angel full of magic and power and pure sweet love. You're full of magic, power, and pure sweet love. I see the Christ in you. I see the Christ in you. I see the Christ in you. And so it is.
Thank you so much. Could I have an usher please come forward as a volunteer? You might take a minute if you're not quite ready yet. This is the section of the service where we celebrate our prosperity by giving, knowing that we do receive. Go ahead,
I celebrate my abundance today by giving this gift. I show my faith as I open my heart. My world becomes a better place. I release all fear as I share gratefully. This love that I give always gives back to me. Knowing my oneness with everything else, I know that all that I give to myself.
Thank you so much, and thank you, David. Let us bless this offering together. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Lovingly I give, and lovingly I receive. I'd like to thank everyone who is joining us online today. And I would like to invite you, after I make a few announcements, to join us here in the sanctuary. We have some classes going on. Today, since it is the third Sunday of the month, we have a support circle that's going to meet right there in the back of the sanctuary. It's a safe space for you to share what's going in your life with others who might be going through something very similar, but who can offer their support. And remember, we support one another simply by being together in the same place, seeing the Christ light in that person, the same Christ light that is in you. Every second, so that support group meets every first and third Sunday. On the second and fourth Sundays, we have a Course in Miracles group. Let's just say it's an alternative approach to unity truth. So it's a different way of coming at the same truth principles that you hear right here on Sunday morning. But sometimes our brains need to come at these truths from a different direction so that we may digest them. Coming up next year, beginning early in January, we're beginning an offering of a class that we've never done here at Unity of Huntsville before. It's called the Quantum Living Process. It was developed by Gary Simmons and is being offered here by Becky. It does require your registration. So be aware, we'll have some registration sign-up forms in the foyer coming very soon. Sometime in December I'll have those out. But that's going to be on us before we know it. And you know what comes in December? Santa Claus. Here comes Santa Claus. Okay. But then in January we have this quantum living process. It's about dealing with those parts of us that are running around down here that forget about the presence of the Christ in us. They're buried so deep because when we were children, most of them happened when we were children. It was a survival mechanism, but we outgrew it, and yet it's still there, and it comes up and causes us trouble. And really, before we can begin this progression up towards realizing our fully Christed self as the active voice in our consciousness and allowing these other voices to be passive and subordinate so that they can still help us in life, this quantum living process will help us uncover some of those voices so that they may become passive relative to our true self, our ruah, as Jesus would say. So please join us for one of those classes. And I do offer that we need to register for the quantum living process. There will only be 10 seats available. Because of the nature of the material, there has to be that level of interaction between us and Betsy. So again, thanks if you've joined us online. We're fixing to adjourn as we sing. We even go back here into a circle and discuss these points of the sermon. So you can ask questions, so you can relate how I've seen those sermons in me or not. It's completely optional. But we'd love to see you join us next Sunday or some Sunday coming up in the future. We invite you to share this experience that you've had today with everyone you meet by seeing the Christ